how to make a garden style flower bouquet using flowers from your own garden. So I've cut all of these from our autumnal garden, and it really is the last of the season here, but I wanted to include scent and movement, and I wanted to make it white because, do you know what, autumn sometimes is a bit too kind of orange, isn't it? So watch on and I'll show you exactly how I made this bouquet. So let's talk about the ingredients. Dahlias can be heavy-headed girls, so you need a little bit of support for that hand-tied mechanics. I love this brachyglottis, really gorgeous foliage. I also love to have scent in a bouquet, so I'm going to be using this mint that at this time of the year is flowering, those beautiful beautiful flowers, and also Annabelle hydrangea. You need, so I've got my spikes, you need a fluffy headed something, and Annabelle has gone green at this time. Incidentally, beautiful time to actually dry it. And I have the last of my roses. So this is a variety called Iceberg. It isn't super scented, but it keeps flowering and flowering and flowering. So, but I think this is going to be its last moment because believe you me, it was slightly frosty this morning. So I will get those out. And then, of course, the main thing is the focal flower. Are these dahlias. That's long cross. They are a really great variety because they do keep pumping out flowers. So I'm going to be using those in my bouquet, and also perennial phlox. It's kind of fading now, but it's just such a beautiful ingredient, and you can put it in your beds. You don't have to fuss about it, and every year it just pumps up loads and loads of beautifully scented flowers. The last thing that I think I'm going to include in here is some sweet rocket. Now I know you say, isn't that a flower for spring? I've got ones and they're basically acting like perennials, and they always seem to throw up a few little stems. It's not called sweet rocket for nothing. Again, beautifully scented stem. So when you're thinking about your ingredients, think about scent and season. So for a garden style bouquet, I very much go around my cutting garden and look at the things that are left. And one of the things that I do have left is some sweet peas with just a little purple edge, and that will match with the mint, and some longer stems, and they are going to give me some lovely movement in this bouquet. Mechanics. I think the key to a garden style flower bouquet is its initial mechanics, and there are several ways that you can think about doing that. You can use your stem as a nest, and to do that you need to create using really stiff stems that you can be confident are going to hold. So this brachyglottis is at this time of year a really lovely ingredient because it has super stiff stems, and you can arrange it in what I call the cross method because the stems are in a cross, and you use your hand as a kind of vase opening really, and you lay the stems where they balance. So a really critical thing for this method is that the stems have a very open structure, and then you can use other ingredients that have a very kind of transitional, this is called in floristry terms, head structure. So this is Annabelle, who turns very green at this time of year. So you can slot those flower heads in amongst that base mechanic and use that to support, because at this time of year your dahlias have very, very heavy heads, and I like to use seasonal ingredients. So all of my flowers are grown here, and the advantage that you have, and you can just place your hydrangeas where they want to be placed. So I've moved them because they were tipping and they weren't actually balancing. You want your smaller heads for the outside, and then you want your bigger heads for the inside. An advantage that you have, I was just saying about growing your own flowers, is that you can choose the ingredients and what you have for your bouquet. So I think a base mechanic using this kind of structure is quite good, and you have to look at it when you've done it, look at where your flowers are going. A really important thing is to have them low down and high up, different heights and looking in different directions. So you can see that cross is still there, but it's been filled in with these bigger heads. And I'm going to add some more ingredients now and then share with you why I've added, what I've added and when I've added. So I thought I'd take a pause and show you what I've added, why I've added and where I've added. And a lot of this next layering has been my spikes, which I think gives a good overall shape to the bouquet. It also shores up from a mechanics perspective, and you can see I've gone from one side to the other with the mint and with the sweet rocket and with the phlox, and then from the other. So when I lay one stem on one side, I tend to lay another stem on the other. And then you can see I'm still following that initial cross structure and holding it really firm but gently in my hands. So I'm now going to add some of the focal flowers, and you can see I've added in a dahlia really, really deep down. And these focal flowers are going to be the things that I want you to see. So I can use my base mechanics to support those heavy heads of dahlias. And I'm just choosing my dahlias here, who have got far too attached to each other. And if there's any stems that you think are not going to work, just give them a chop off at this stage, and then I just lay them on my ingredients and see where they want to go. And if they don't want to go there, I lay them somewhere else, because I think you need, with garden grown ingredients, with your they're very, kind of unique. Every ingredient is a very unique piece, and so I do think you have to add them where they want to go. And with a garden style flower bouquet, you really want to emphasize the beauty of those flowers, so you want people to see them. So I am going to nestle in my dahlias, but not to the point where you can't see them, and then add some more stems. And what I do is I tend to add one on one side, and then I like to cluster these rather heavy-headed girls, because you really don't want them dotted. I know it's a little bit of a floristry technique that you can dot flowers round, and it's actually even taught. But I think if you group flowers, as in place them kind of next to each other, it does look more natural, and it also looks like they're growing. And if you place them so that they're not all at the same height, that also gives the impression of growing. So the advantage with this base mechanic is you can thread stems through the foliage, and then just, I don't know whether you've heard that horn, it's an extremely busy day on the boats today, I think, and the weather's beautiful, so people have just got that last glorious bit of summer. Well, it's autumn, let's be honest. So I can see that there's a little gap down there, and I'm just going to start to lower the white colour with the last of my roses. And because I really want people to see these roses, I've left them to the last, and I want them to kind of echo the last hurrah of summer, where things are fading. And so I keep the spent stems on my roses and just add them in where I think they would have liked to have grown, and they are very much coming to an end. So it's a lovely variety, Iceberg. It just does have a little bit of scent, but not too much. So that's my layers of focal flowers. And you can still see the shape at the bottom is very much a fan. And for the final ingredient, because dahlias can be very, very stiff, I want to add a bit of movement. And so I'm going to get this from some sweet pea tendrils that I'm almost at the stage of ripping out. They're just kind of just hanging in there. So, and I use them to add movement. And so you can take off those tendrils that you don't need, and then use the stem to arc over, because those tendrils do like to remain attached, don't they? So you can just arc over with that stem, and then I will arc over with this stem and make sure it sits nicely. And if it doesn't sit nicely, turn it round and then slot it in, and it probably will sit nicely. There we go. Now, this is the point at which you really hope you've got a bit of string in your pocket, which I have. So that is the advantage of big, deep pockets. So make sure you tie on your binding point with a garden style bouquet. A shift of your binding point is going to really change the feel and the look of your bouquet. So I've just turned this over. Notice that I've slightly crushed a dahlia there, so that you can now see that dahlia. So I like to hook with one hand, get it roughly in the middle, turn it over, make sure I've got everything where I want it to be, and then seal it at the end. And pretty much I will tie this off, and then I would be adding a ribbon and cutting the stems. So as with everything with floristry, it's gentle but firm. Use that to tie that initial layer. And then what I'll do is I will add another layer, she says, if she can find a bit of, or use the ends of this one to just loop round again to make sure that I've got it really secure. So I'll just use the ends of that. And then we have an autumn garden style bouquet, and you'll have different ingredients in your garden from me, and different things that you love and different colours that you like. So if you hold the bouquet out, I like to give it 2 hands width to cut. So always cut long, because I always say this, you can't add it back on. So you have an initial rough cut, and then you can just stretch it out a bit, and then I will just have another cut. And then I would usually, for a bridal, I would keep it overnight and then ribbon it up in the morning. Some brides are asking for their flowers the night before, though. I found this. So my last bride of the season will be left with very clear instructions on how she is to take care of her flowers, because I'm delivering to her the night before. So that is my bouquet, with the very last of my sweet peas and pretty much the last of my roses, and nestled in a bed of hydrangea, using a technique called the cross, where you use the base as that cross base is the mechanic, and lots of different ingredients, but a lot of scented ingredients from my canalside cut flower garden. So I hope you've learnt a lot from that video. See you in the next one.